Hey guys, Snowflakey Zemos here with a new video. This is the first video of a series I kind of wanted to start doing for a little bit that I am calling You've Just Activated My Trap Card. This will be a series where I talk about various trap cards that exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Both some that are a little more notorious and some that are basically not known on anybody's radar, and just kind of talk about why I like them, theory crafting with them, maybe their uses. As we know in the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh! Trap cards are not in a good spot. They simply just don't do anything if you're going second, which is going to be statistically about half the time. And, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a fast game where in turn one, your opponent's making a bunch of monsters that are going to destroy and finish you off. So relying on trap cards is inherently not great because you need to go first to use them. And even then, it's just more reliable to build a big monster board because maybe that can do stuff going second. But, not all hope is lost, and trap cards are one of my favorite aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh! So, there's not a lot of content on trap cards as a result of the state of the game, and thus I wanted to throw my hat in the ring as someone who plays a lot of trap card decks. If you watch the channel, you'll see that most of my decks are very trap heavy. I play slow decks that use trap cards to carry them. And, it's one of the things I like about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that that's a playstyle. And while it's not a favored playstyle in the metagame, it's still one that I think is perfectly fine casually. Anyway, so that's just my introduction to the series. Let's get into today's topic. Starting on this first episode, I am really digging deep into the barrel. I am activating my Blind Obliteration. This is our trap card of the day. Now, most of you probably have not seen this card, but this is a card that's kind of been sitting just in my bulk for a long time that I kind of found some use for. This trap card says, roll a 6-sided die twice and destroy all face-up monsters with levels/ranks lower than the total roll. So this card came out in Code of the Duelist, which is, pretty cool. It was a rare. And, this is essentially a RNG-based board wipe. Now, the RNG is kind of a little shaky, but let's be honest here. When your opponent is playing a lot of monsters and they're summoning a lot of board, most of the time, they're summoning level 4 or lower monsters. I mean, you need to summon that on a normal summon and whatnot. So, overall, by rolling 2 6-sided die, you have the ability to wipe a board with this card a good chunk of the time. Now, of course, it's not good against link monsters, but you can play it proactively before links are summoned. When you roll 2 die, statistically, the average is about 7, so which means usually you can guarantee that if the opponent's monsters are level 6 or lower, you can wipe them off the board, which is pretty good, and stop them from comboing off, summoning a bunch of monsters. If you summon 2 monsters to go into an extra deck monster, and you can wipe them with Blind Obliteration, it gets rid of them. Now, why is this card not run or seen in use? Well, first off, it's because we can play 3 copies of a card called Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute is one of the greatest trap cards probably you could play currently that's not just a floodgate. It's a trap card that says when a monster is summoned, destroy all monsters on the field. So, unlike Blind Obliteration, Torrential Tribute always guarantees that you will destroy the monsters on the field, as opposed to Blind Obliteration that kind of has the Snipe Hunter effect, where while usually reliable, it can miss. And of course, it activates on summon, so, right in the middle of a response. Pretty good stuff. Although I will say, Blind Obliteration has a little bit of a benefit for the fact that you can use it whenever, not just to a summon. But the fact that Torrential Tribute exists means that, there's really not much place or use for a card like this. Why take the chance when Torrential Tribute does the job? Well, I have found that I have some decks where I'm playing Torrential Tribute at 3, and I said, you know what? I would like a 4th Torrential Tribute. I would like a 5th Torrential Tribute. Boom. That's when Blind Obliteration comes in. So, of course, while Blind Obliteration can't guarantee destroy the monsters, a nice thing that Blind Obliteration has is that you can, play it at the end of a turn. Like, say, if you played Summon Limit. Your opponent summons 2 monsters, right? They play Summon. You play Summon Limit. They can't summon any more monsters. Maybe they can't get over your monsters, maybe they attack. Either way, after they summon 2 monsters, you can play Blind Obliteration, most likely wipe their monsters. Of course, you can do this with Torrential Tribute. And then have an open board that you can OTK them on their next turn. And that is a pretty neat combo. So basically, I think Blind Obliteration kind of has a place. There's a lot of trap control style decks you can play right now. And I think Blind Obliteration, I like this card when I find myself saying, hey, I would like more copies uh, of 3 Torrential Tributes. So that's a little bit about Blind Obliteration. Now, I'm going to talk about some cards that I think it works well with. So we've already talked about Blind Obliteration and its good synergy with Summon Limit, a very powerful floodgate that makes neither player be able to summon more than 2 times per turn. So basically, when your opponent summons 2 monsters before they're about to go into maybe their first extra deck monster, you can flip Blind Obliteration, destroy those monsters, chain Summon Limit, destroy those monsters, and now, since they've summoned twice and Summon Limit's up on the field, they're not going to be able to summon. They're going to pass on an open board with no monsters. That's pretty sweet. We like that. That also applies to other floodgates that kind of limit the field. There can only be one. You know, if you play there can only be one, your opponent's stuck on one monster. They'll attack, do a little damage past their turn. At the end of the turn, you could flip Blind Obliteration, pop their monster. Now they have an open field. You could possibly OTK. Pretty sweet. Card, of course, is also nice with 2 prominent floodgates that you might play in those trap-style decks: Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos that make monsters go to the that makes monsters banished instead of going to the grave. So you can wipe monsters and don't even have to worry about triggering their graveyard effects. Just banish them so they're out of the game. Of course, that can burn you against some archetypes that want to be banished, but that's not too many. So just some little synergies and combos you could play with Blind Obliteration. And as the last part of this segment, I'm going to talk about Blind Obliteration and some of the decks I'm using that have been playing around with it and have been considering using it. So starting off, Blind Obliteration. Part of the nice thing that's about it too is it can be less of a one-sided board wipe if you're playing monsters that are high level, that are less likely to get blown up. Now, if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, a lot of you probably have decks based around these cards. I play a trap control style deck for both Blue Eyes and Dark Magician. I mean, Dark Magician is at the 7 average, and of course, Blue Eyes White Dragon is at the 8 average. So there's a lot of times you can flip Blind Obliteration, roll less than 7 or 8, and not destroy your Dark Magician or Blue Eyes, and maybe you're destroying your opponent's monsters, which is pretty cool. So that's pretty awesome. And the good thing about these 2 decks is even if you destroy these 2 monsters, you don't care because you can play True Light or Eternal Soul, which just once per turn can resummon them. So you can wipe the board, summon back your Dark Magician or Blue Eyes, and of course, again, if you're playing Summon Limited in those decks, maybe, you just wipe the board after they were Summon Limited. You summon your monster back. They have an open board. You have a 25 or 3,000 attack monster. On your next turn, you can summon even more monsters. It can put them in quite a tight spot. So decks where you have really high level monsters, of course, have the capability of not getting wiped by Blind Obliteration. And that could make it more of a one-sided wipe if you're going against an opponent's board. Also, what's important to note about Blind Obliteration is that it only requires level. It only works on monsters with levels or ranks. So link monsters and link boards completely do not care about this card. So if I got a big 10E link board, playing traditional 10E, maybe I got Shaman, maybe I got Draco Masters, maybe I got Berserker, I'm going to have Blind Obliteration in my back row. Flip it to disrupt my opponent mid-combo, and my monsters are safe because they have, their link ratings, not ranks or levels. And that is very sweet. It's definitely have found use for that. The other cool thing about Blind Obliteration is it's only a board wipe for face-up monsters. So I actually found this card to have great use in my Prediction Princess deck. First off, Terra Tray is a level 9, which makes Blind Obliteration really hard to destroy your own Terra Tray. And of course, a lot of my flip monsters are face down, so even if they are lower level, like Coin Rama, or like a level 3, they're not going to get destroyed by Blind Obliteration, which is pretty sick. Definitely something that, I've played around with and has come in handy. So if you play a deck that has face down monsters, there's a little synergy there. And of course, if you're playing another deck that I utilize this card a bit in, is Legendary Ocean Umi stuff, What's pretty nice is that I have this card C Stealth Attack in those decks that can make me tag out my monster. So of course, if Giga Gaga Gigo is at risk of getting destroyed with Blind Obliteration, I just tag it out with the effect of C Stealth Attack, and it returns on the next turn. Additionally, you can play Fury of the Karyushin, which is a card that surges Torrential Tribute, which I usually am playing these in the same deck, because like I said, if I'm playing Blind Obliteration, it's usually because I'm maxed out on Torrential Tribute and I want even more board wipes. And Fury of the Karyushin can protect our water monsters from being destroyed. So Blind Obliteration would destroy Giga Gaga Gigo. It is just not destroyed instead. Lastly, we all know that my favorite card is, of course, Dice Jar. And so what is funny is if you want to play a funny meme dice roll deck, this is actually a pretty good card for that kind of meme deck because this destroys a lot of cards, which is pretty cool. And of course, that 6, of course, is a trap card that can manipulate our dice roll. We can make all our odd numbers become 6 or all our even numbers become 1. And we can use that to pretty safely manipulate this to a high number and destroy a lot of monsters, which is pretty cool. Just a little bit of, fun synergy if you want to play a meme, dice roll deck. So yeah, essentially, that is some of the stuff that I'm currently been playing around Blind Obliteration in. So, in conclusion, Blind Obliteration, it's a nice little alternative or additional way to support trap-based decks that want lots of board wipes. If I want more copies of Torrential Tribute, Blind Obliteration is kind of just a weaker version of Torrential Tribute, but if I want another board wipe, it's worth considering. Now, it can fail you by having bad dice rolls, but it's kind of like old Snipe Hunter where like that really doesn't happen too much. A majority of the time, I would say like 75% of the time, it works perfectly as I needed it to, which is pretty sweet. So if you find yourself needing more disruptive board wipes than Torrential Tribute, you can throw this card in. And of course, it also has synergies with decks where you're sitting on high-level monsters, link boards, or of course, face-down flip effect monster decks. It is just another way to destroy a bunch of opponents' monsters and, maybe not destroy yours. Gives you more ways to do it. And of course, a nice thing about Blind Obliteration is this is bulk. This card is everywhere and it is cheap. It is cents. You can just pick this card pretty much out of anyone's bulk collection. You'll probably see it. Well, anyone's recent bulk collection. But so that's my first discussion about Blind Obliteration. Definitely a card that, has been just a fun extra option to add to decks where I want more disruptive trap board wipes than Torrential Tribute. So let me know what you think. What do you think about this card? Has anyone ever played it against you? Would love to know your thoughts. We can discuss the card more in the comments below. Thanks for checking it out.